All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a genuinely chaotic Texas civil case. We're talking about a run-of-the-mill local dispute that somehow mutated into a federal docket just stuffed with bizarre internet lore and completely unverified conspiracies. We're going to look at exactly how official court records were used to lodge extreme, unproven allegations, specifically against a journalist named Richard Thomas Wolfe, and how he is fighting back to reclaim the truth.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with 1, a local libel lawsuit, move on to 2, escalation to federal court, then dive into 3, extreme conspiracy allegations, specifically 4, the Epstein Accusations, before covering 5, Wolfe's retraction demands, and finally, 6, a weaponized court docket.
Section 1, a local libel lawsuit, the ground floor of a defamation dispute. To really grasp the sheer chaos of this whole situation, we first have to ground ourselves in the original reality of case number 425CV05402. Every wild spiral has a starting point, right? And this one began in a very typical way.
And it's honestly jarring to see the difference between what this case was supposed to be and what it actually became. It started as a standard libel lawsuit. You had a local developer, Stuart Lynn, suing an investigative journalist, Richard Thomas Wolfe, and a local citizen, Jessica Miller-Ivey. And this was just over Facebook posts alleging municipal corruption. But, as you'll see, those court documents eventually became flooded with literal spy thriller allegations, stuff like CIA hitmen, international trafficking, and cartel tunnels. It's wild.
Okay, let's keep our cast of characters straight here, because their actual legal roles differ wildly from the sensational roles alleged in the court documents. Stuart Lynn is just the plaintiff and a developer, but the filings allege he's a cartel or a CIA ringleader. Richard Thomas Wolfe is the co-defendant and a journalist, but suddenly he's accused of being an undercover operative named Dimitri. And Jessica Miller-Ivey, the other co-defendant representing herself pro se, well, she claims to be the target of an elaborate kidnapping and murder plot.
Section 2. Escalation to federal court, procedural breakdown, and forged documents. Let's see how this builds up as the case leaves local jurisdiction, enters a federal court, and the relationship between the two co-defendants completely falls apart.
This procedural breakdown was incredibly fast. The original suit is filed in August 2025. By November, Mrs. Eby removes the case to federal court. Fast forward to January 2026, and the co-defendants are entirely fractured. Mrs. Eby is alleging her signature was actually faked on official court management plans. And by May, the docket is just overwhelmed with motions from Mrs. Eby alleging she was lured to a remote cabin by CIA operatives and nearly kidnapped.
Section 3. Extreme conspiracy allegations. Into the deep end of the docket. This is where the federal docket completely stops functioning as a place to test facts. Instead, it just gets flooded with unverified, extreme claims made by Mrs. Miller-Ivey.
Now, I want to emphasize that these aren't just unhinged internet comments on some random message board. No, these are deeply disturbing and entirely unverified claims permanently lodged in a searchable federal legal record. Mrs. Atabey filed documents asserting she was held at a cabin, told girls were being harvested for organs at $300,000 each, and that retired Navy SEALs were hunting her on behalf of the plaintiff.
Mrs. Ivey injected a dizzying array of allegations into the case. We are talking about assertions of CIA operatives, a major Homeland Security drug raid uncovering cartel train tunnels, underground facilities linked to tech billionaires, and international child trafficking rings. These unproven assertions completely drowned out the original defamation dispute. It's like she used the court system as a giant megaphone for conspiracy.
Section 4. The Epstein Accusations, the climax of the smear file. The crucial point here, and really the climax of this whole smear file, is reached when Mrs. Ivey's allegations pivot directly toward her own co-defendant, Richard Thomas Wolfe, attempting to tie him to one of the most notorious abuse scandals in modern history.
Through her filings, Mrs. Ivey made incredibly extreme allegations against Mr. Wolfe. She claimed that a biometric face scan proved Wolfe was actually a Russian-born undercover actor named Dimitri, and that the scan placed him squarely on Jeffrey Epstein's island. She is asserting deeply damaging things she has absolutely not proven. It's a clear example of utilizing the federal docket for targeted narrative control against a journalist.
And she didn't stop there. Mrs. Ickleby even submitted what she claimed were emails from 2007 between Mr. Wolfe, Jeffrey Epstein, and a World Bank director discussing joint funding. She further alleged that Wolfe's assets were frozen through accounts tied to Epstein. Again, these are massive, completely unverified accusations of international financial crimes and money laundering permanently uploaded to a public court record for anyone to find.
Section 5. Wolfe's retraction demands, pushing back against narrative control. So let's look at how Richard Thomas Wolfe firmly pushed back, because he realized this wasn't just a procedural headache anymore. This was a deliberate attempt to destroy his reputation using the presumed legitimacy of the court system.
Mr. Wolfe issued a formal demand letter to Mrs. Ivey. He soberly and systematically refuted the explosive lies she placed into the public record. He flatly rejected the biometric match claims as completely false, refuted the idea that his funds were frozen through Epstein, denied staging any armed incident at City Hall, and explicitly stated he has never met, communicated with, or associated with Jeffrey Epstein in any capacity whatsoever.
To fight this, Wolfe invoked the Texas Defamation Mitigation Act. He's treating Mrs. Imbe's filings as defamation per se. He highlights that she is falsely imputing serious criminal conduct and professional unfitness onto him. So he is legally demanding a full retraction of these unproven smears before pursuing full litigation.
Section 6. A weaponized court docket, reputational warfare in public records. This brings us to the broader, honestly deeply concerning implications of what this explainer reveals about the vulnerabilities within our justice system. As Wolfe's public notice argues, the federal proceeding entirely stopped functioning as a forum to test evidence. Instead, because of Mrs. Ivey's unverified filings, it became a delivery system for identity manipulation, narrative control, and reputational destruction. The danger here is that outsiders could read these official federal dockets and mistake these wild allegations for established facts.
And that brings us to this staggering number, $17 million. That is the amount in damages Mr. Wolfe intends to seek in a Matagata County court for defamation, fraud, and misappropriation of identity if Mrs. Ivey does not cure the false statements she injected into the record. To put that into perspective, it represents the immense, tangible cost of reputational warfare.
So I'll leave you with this provocative thought to consider. A court's docket is meant to be a sacred record of facts and evidence. But if anyone can just inject wild, unproven conspiracies into a permanent legal record to control a narrative and destroy a reputation, how do we protect the facts? Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to think critically about the public records you read.